Country Life on Midlands 103. Brought to you by W. Orshaw, Burlington Business Park, Tullamore. Supplier of New Holland's tractors in the Midlands. worshaw.ie.
Good evening and welcome to Country Life here on Midlands 103. It's MJ Clery with you until 8 p.m. this evening, bringing you all of the news from food farming and agri-business from around the Midlands over the course of the next hour. And thank you all for joining me as always. Wednesday, 22nd of April 2026. So the month of April is kicking on, as is the spring of 2026. And finally, I think I can say to you that we have some good weather on the horizon. Looking at Met Éireann here in front of me. And last couple of days, look, they have been dry, but really, really cold spells as well. So kind of not good for much in relation to grass growth. But coming up Thursday, 16 degrees. I see Friday 18, Saturday 17, Sunday 18, Monday 18, Tuesday 16. So we finally have some good proper sunshine ahead of us that will get some warmth into the ground, and God knows we have been waiting for it now at this stage of the year. So thankfully it is coming. This evening on the programme, in a moment, Peter Thomas Keaveney from the Irish Farmers Journal will join me to chat about their big event taking place in Kilkenny next week. It's all about silage making and it's called Grass 2026. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. Also this evening on the programme, anaerobic digestion is something we cover here from time to time. The government had great targets for it a number of years that back by 2030. The plan was that there would be AD plants dotted all over the country. Now there are some, but they have been very slow to come on board, and a recent opinion by the European Commission will not help the cause. So more on this later. Carol Cassan from IFAC will give us the information on this and how it's going to impact that area. It's National Cultivate Week. So Cultivate is the credit union loan package for farmers. It's widely used for both long and short-term financing on farms up and down the Midlands. Our reporter Courtney Callahan spoke to Paul Shaw, he's the CEO of Tullamore Credit Union, along with Katrina Lawler, about the popularity of the package, and we're going to hear about that a little bit later. Finally, the two dairy calf schemes, it's hard to remember the names of them, so I call one the weighing scheme and I call the other one the breeding scheme. One is where you have to weigh the calves and put in certain data, and there's another couple of measures along with it. The other one is where dairy farmers have to use a 3-star bull or more to obtain a payment. Michael O'Connell is from the ICMSA. He's going to have a word on those a little bit later. He's also calling for, the ICMSA are calling for adequate funding. You may remember on this last year, the payment was €20 a head for 50 calves for the weighing scheme, but then farmers only got paid for 31 as funding. It was oversubscribed. So this year round, ICMSA are calling for the full payment on the 50 calves, and rightly so. If you go into the scheme and that's what you're told at the start, it's only fair that that's what you get. So we're going to be talking about that later. Also, some very interesting data on the amount of beef that is imported into Ireland. So for 2025, Michael has the figures of the amount of beef that was brought into Ireland. For a country that exports 90% of its beef, the fact that we're bringing in any beef at all is a bit of a head scratcher. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later. As always, text or WhatsApp the show with your comments, thoughts or questions. 083 30 10 103. Now, as I said, we are starting off with Grass 2026. We have a Galway man on the line, Peter Thomas Keaveney from the Farmers Journal. Peter, many thanks for taking my call this evening.
No bother, MJ. Thanks for having me.
You're more than welcome. It's the big event next week and there's a lot to talk about on it. But look, I suppose, unfortunately, we'd prefer not to be talking about this, Peter. But if we're talking about silage and silage making and contracting in general, we have to mention diesel and we have to talk about diesel prices because it is the big one for this coming season. Obviously, when all this was planned, diesel was back where it normally is or normally was. Unfortunately, it's not in that position now, and it's going to be... Look, it's going to be a tough time for us all, but contractors especially over the course of the next couple of months, Peter.
Absolutely, MJ. Yeah. Now look here, DJ. I suppose go roll the clock back maybe 2-3 weeks ago. The good news is diesel isn't as bad as what it was. I know it's still very, very high. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, green diesel hit highs of 170 a litre. As of today, depending on what part of the country you're in, I'm hearing diesel quotes from 128 to 133, 134. So we'll say even in the space of a week, like, you know, I suppose a press conference from some of the political leaders can sway it either way if the strait is open or closed. But it's not all bad news, MJ. Like, diesel is back about 40 cents a litre on where it was maybe 2 weeks ago. So, like, if you look at a contractor's outfit, you know, a self-propelled harvester, a big loader, a mower, a rake, and maybe 4 trailers drawn in, that outfit would burn maybe 3,500 litres a day. So, like, we'll say, prior to, I suppose, you know, when the world was a bit more of a stable place, diesel was under €1, maybe 90, 98 cents, 95 cents, you know, prior to the troubles kicking out in the Middle East. So I suppose if you look at the 70 cents increase per litre, running a typical, just a pit silage outfit, you know, you're gone into nearly €2,500 a day more of a fuel bill, whereas I suppose at present, you know, when it's back to maybe a 30 cent per litre increase, it's back to maybe 1,050, 1,100. So that's nearly half, like, so it's very, I suppose it's very volatile. It's up and down, depending on what one person says or what doesn't say. So, look, it's up and down. It's definitely going to be a tough year for contractors. I've been chatting to contractors the length and breadth of the country. There's guys talking about fuel surcharges. There's guys talking about that a fuel surcharge isn't fair because, let's say, MJ, you ring me to cut your silage today and the neighbour wants to cut today and I get a fill of diesel tonight and let's say it goes up 10 cents overnight, you know. So there's a lot of talk around it at the minute. I think everyone is going to do their best to pull through it and to get over it, but unfortunately we just have to plough on with it.
Yeah, I'm presuming though, Peter, this year is going to be the year where, you know, contractors carrying the can for farmers, like it can't occur this year, as in this idea of paying the contractor, you know, in a few months' time when we sell cattle and stuff. I think that day, well, it has been leaving agriculture for the last few years, but it still is a common enough practice. But I think this year it'll have to change.
Yeah, absolutely. And chatting with contractors, they're saying, look, we don't expect all the money going out the gate. We understand the huge pressures on the different farming sectors at the minute. But they're saying to me is they look at the machinery that they bought this year has gone up in line with inflation. They're saying that the auto enrolment has come in. They're now to pay the staff more for the mandatory pension. They're saying the minimum wage increases have affected their business. And now obviously fuel is such a huge cost. Like, let's say if a farmer was getting or contractor was getting for €100,000, it wouldn't be lost when things are busy. They're going to hit that threshold much quicker, and the oil companies aren't going to take the credit. But the farmers are going to try and maybe give a few extra quid to the contractors going out the gate and try, you know, lead to keep the show on the road.
Yeah, just to try and keep things moving. So just on to the events here. Look, for people who are interested in machinery, this is the place to go next week. So you have some really eye-catching pieces of machinery down at the event. Can you just tell us a little bit about the background of it and some of what's going to be on offer, please?
Absolutely. So GRAS 2026 is a live machinery demonstration event, live silage machinery demonstration event. It's taking place Wednesday the 29th of April in Cooksgrange, Kilkenny, just outside Kilkenny City. That's this day a week. The event is aimed at farmers, contractors, machinery operators and machinery enthusiasts. So basically anyone that has an interest in machinery. It's a new initiative that's hosted by ourselves. It's the first live working GRAS demonstration event of the decade, all of it hosted by the Irish Farmers Journal with the support of FBD Insurance. So look, on the day, all leading GRAS machinery manufacturers will be there. They'll be showcasing the latest and greatest equipment involved in the cutting and installation of GRAS. So that's pretty much every machine MJ that you can think of, from mowers to tethers to rakes, as well as balers, forage wagons and forage harvesters. And on the day we'll also have a bale handling demonstration. We'll be showcasing the different methods involved in handling bales, such as bale chasers and stacking the bales. And then alongside that, then there'll be a live silage pit demonstration. So that's going to host there'll be a number of different wheel loaders and other equipment used in the installation process, such as silage compactors, which I suppose have become very popular in the continent in recent years. And in the last 2 or 3 years, we see a lot of them now on silage pits in Northern Ireland. So they work alongside the wheel loaders in the pit. And then there'll be live commentary accompanying all them demonstrations from early morning right through the afternoon. And we'll be providing a rundown of every machine along with general advice to make good silage. There's over 50 machines going to be demonstrated on the day, so it's going to be a fairly hectic day. We're going to kick off at 10:30. The gates will be open at 9. The demonstration is going to kick off at 10:30, and we're going to run right through the silage making process from start to finish. And then I suppose if live demonstrations weren't enough, we're going to have a very, very lively trade village there. So that's going to be jam-packed machine services from industry players, and even beyond grass equipment, there'll be receiving equipment, there'll be slurry equipment, and in the trade village, the manufacturers, the importers, the dealers, they'll all be on hand, to answer and discuss your machinery needs. So there's 100 stands lined up there for the trade village, so it'll definitely be a great spectacle, optimistically.
And you're bringing in a couple of machines, one in particular that hasn't set foot on Irish soil before, Peter.
Yeah, there's a number of machines that are going to make their Irish debut in the day. So I suppose just to mention maybe the few ticket items. So the first will be the John Deere harvester. They launched their F8 and F9 Forager series, a fully revamped self-propelled silage harvester offering there last year. That's going to make its Irish working debut on the day. Like that now, Crone launched a new combi baler, combination baler wrapper at Agritechnica last year in Germany. They have big plans for that. Farmers will be bringing that down to the day. And then the Class 1000 series is currently readying to lead Parfinkel in Germany for Kilkenny. So the journey of that machine, it's a big machine. It's the Class 1000 series is up to 1150 horsepower. It's a fully revamped self-propelled silage harvester offering from Class. It's the capacity to gobble up to 480 tons an hour. So phenomenal machine, phenomenal output. That machine is leaving Harswinkel this evening, I'm told, and the plan there is, due to height restrictions, it's going to the Netherlands by road on the lorry. It's going to have wheels fitted in the Netherlands. It's going to be shipped into Ireland. It's going down to Forest and Carlow. It's going to be PDI. It's going to get post-delivery inspection there. It's going to be set up, and with the help of God, it will be working this day week in Kilkenny to make its Irish debut as well. So we've a good selection of Irish machines there. Like that case, have a new wheel loader, fully revamped wheel loader. Last year, 255 horsepower, 16.3 tons. That's going to make its Irish debut at the event as well. So there's a lot of machines right through from start to finish that are going to be seen for the first time on the day. So, and look, as you mentioned here at the start, MJ, the weather finally turned. I know that maybe today wouldn't give it a lot of courage and good growth, but it's definitely drying up, and the dry weather is going to give lads a chance. There's a little bit of silage going on, clipping off paddocks that went too strong and stuff that wasn't great, and then the tillage lads are all in the field. So if we get the cattle out and if we get the crops going, then hopefully this week lads will be able to draw their breath, they'll let go down and sit back and enjoy a day of silage making in front of them before the real panic sits on.
Yeah, I'm sure people will get down. It's in a good location in the centre of the country. Just before I let you go, Peter, just on that one, the Class Jaguar 1000 series, 480 tonnes per hour. So if we averaged out, maybe 10 tonne, how many tonne of grass on an average acre? What are we talking about at acres per hour?
Oh, well, you see, so in terms of tonnes per hour, so when these companies such as the DLG, which is an independent machinery testing company in Germany to be worldwide recognised, when they're quantifying tonnes is generally quantified as maize, because if you look at your typical grass crops, I know in Ireland we like cutting the crops a lot heavier than the continent. Still a lot of one-cut wonders as we call them, and two strong cuts. But in the continent, a lot of that is 4, 5, 6, 7 even cuts. But the real tonnage is quantified in maize. So you can imagine MJ out in the continent where they have big stripes of maize, and that 1000 series was actually developed for the American market. So I'm not sure if you've ever seen the videos or if you've ever been out in America for the maize harvest, but they'd be on massive plains, a couple of 100 acre fields, and it's all irrigated, and they have the weather so it'd be mega crops where the machine is literally running day and night, and it's running in big straight lines or it's running in circles with irrigation pivots, and that's where that tonnage is measured. But look at MJ, when it comes to making silage, generally the limitation isn't actually the harvester, it's the number of trailers that's under the spout, and it's how big is your pit in the yard and how fast can your loader man and your machine on the pit handle the grass. So there's friends of mine in this country, depending on where they are, they can get through 80 to 100 acres a day, and then there's friends in other parts of the country where they're in maybe multi-cut systems and they're on bigger fields. Them guys are able to put through 300, 350 acres a day. So there's a huge variation there, but this machine, if the acres were in front of it, would gobble up phenomenal acres. There's no two ways about it,
Those pictures you're painting for us there, Peter, those huge swaths of land and the massive machines working day and night, they're a contractor's dream, really, aren't they? Problem in Ireland, I suppose, is moving from A to B, a little bit here, a little bit there. But look, it's just, I suppose, it's the nature of the beast that we farm here in Ireland. It's the way we do it with smaller holdings. I know there are some very big farms as well, don't get me wrong, but on the most, there's lots of those little ones where number of bales here, number of bales there, and that's the problem, I suppose, in a year like this where you just want lots of work and you want to go in and not be burning too much diesel going from A to B.
Absolutely, yeah, but that's the nature of the beast, MJ, isn't it? And look at it, we can only deal with what's in front of us. But definitely, look at Ireland as a country that loves its machinery. Like when you go to Canada, I worked in Saskatchewan years ago as a placement in college, and 20,000 acre tillage farm, and he had 1,000 suckler cows, and I think there was 2 tractors on the farm, and that was our bigger scale and stuff, but there's only 2 tractors on every farm in Ireland. But we love our machinery and we love to be mechanised. But on the flip side of that, MJ, you look at the spring we've had now, and only for we're getting so much good weather next week, there would be huge amount of work to be done this week, in terms of field work. So we are very over mechanised, but we do have the challenge weather windows that we need that machinery to work within,
Yeah, 100%. You can even see, I suppose, Peter, last one, you're talking about our love of machinery here in Ireland, and often we do different segments on machinery here in the programme, but even the tractor runs, you can see them up and down the country and how many people subscribe to them. Little small crossroads, and we have 80, 100 tractors, and they go on week after week, and you see how joyous people are bringing their old tractor down, getting them cleaned up, and it is something that people love. So I'd say you're going to have a massive turnout next week. Weather's going to be good and people will get down to you for a few hours. We wish you all the best with it, Peter.
Thanks a million, MJ, and you're very welcome to come down yourself as well.
Very good. Many thanks, Peter. Peter Thomas Keaveney from the Irish Farmers Journal, and I do plan on getting down to that next Wednesday if I can. It's going to be a great event, actually. It's going to be massively subscribed, so tickets are available on Irish Farmers Journal /grass. It's Grass 2026, and you can pick them up, and it is, I suppose, a kind of a little mini ploughing championships, mini Tullamore show here in the back end of April. So it's going to be nice to get down to it for a number of hours, well located, and lots and lots on offer. On the diesel side of things, 170 a few weeks ago, down to 128, 133 at the moment, around 130 at the moment. So it is falling in the right direction. Obviously, still vastly overpriced there, and we're hoping for it to come back and back. But you never know. 22nd of April, we have another couple of weeks, and the way things are going in the world at the moment, a week is a long time. So fingers crossed it's going to come back to a more reasonable price. Now, coming up after the break, we have Michael O'Connell from the ICMSA. We're talking about the 2 different dairy calf schemes, so the weighing scheme and the breeding scheme, and also a word on the amount of beef that is being imported into Ireland. You won't believe how much came into Ireland in 2025, so stay tuned for that.
Country Life on Midlands 103.
With W.R. Shaw, family owned and serving the Midlands since 1982, we're Ireland's largest independent agri-dealer, specialising in New Holland tractors and parts. With over 40 years' experience, we provide top quality sales, service and support. Visit W.R. Shaw in Tullamore and Carlow or online at wrshaw.ie.
And you're very welcome back to Country Life here in Midlands 103. Now we're moving on to beef, and in particular the dairy beef schemes. We have Michael O'Connell from the ICMSA joining us to give us a rundown on them. Michael, many thanks for taking my call this evening.
Thank you, MJ, for having me on.
You're more than welcome, Michael. First time you're speaking to me on the programme here. Just give us a little bit of background. Where are you from and what's your own farm and enterprise, please?
Not too far from you, Tipperary, man. Just living outside Thurles, milking 70 cows, keep most of my own calves, and take some to beef.
And you're one of the traditional beef dairy men. Tell us about your herd, Michael. What sort of cows do you have?
Yeah, it would be very much British Frisian. That's what they are, probably 100% at this stage. Find them a very resilient breed. Easy to get back in calf, good on their feet, and produce a good calf.
Yeah, not too many of you left in the country, Michael. The traditional British Frisian man, you're few and far between, but it's great to see it, especially for the man who might be purchasing your stock. The British Frisian breeding, it can't be beat.
No, they produce a good square calf in fairness to them, Probably not far off your traditional breed, maybe in some cases as good as,
No, absolutely. We back when we used to be buying calves, the British Frisian was the mother you always wanted, and we're talking now about dairy calves. The two schemes, people get confused on these schemes, Michael. I call one the weighing scheme, and I call the other one the breeding scheme. It's officially they're called Dairy Beef Weighing Scheme and Dairy Beef Welfare Scheme, so they both have a W in them. Weighing scheme, I suppose, look, farmers are familiar with this. It's on the go for the last couple of years. There was a change a couple of years ago where the man rearing the dairy calves, the beef farmer, didn't get it, but that changed again last year. But the annoyance, I suppose, with this was the underfunding and the fact that farmers didn't get fully paid last year.
Yeah, in fairness, it's, as you said, the underfunding. They say you can get paid up to 50 calves, but because it was oversubscribed, it was up to 31 calves is all anybody got paid on. And we would be hoping that the minister will put more money to this. This is actually a government scheme, whereas the other scheme is cap. Mm-hmm. So the minister could put more to this if he chooses, which we hope he will. And it's open at the moment, closes the 15th of May. And the only action that was required is that you have to weigh the calves when they're, I think they must be at least 12 weeks, mm-hmm. at the age when you weigh them. And you have to submit the weights then to ICDF. All calves are eligible, only dairy females are not. So dairy male calves and dairy continental male and female are eligible.
Yeah, it's a straightforward scheme. And look, if the full funding was there, €1,000, especially this year, nobody any year would shake their head at €1,000. But this year in particular, all these little payments are going to be very important with diesel and with costs the way they are. So we are, as you say, I think farming in general, hoping now that funding will be available for the 50 at €20, and we won't hear any different as the year progresses. If we move across then to the welfare scheme, this is the one for the dairy farmer. Can you explain this one to us, please, Michael?
Yeah, this one is a little bit different because it's based on the bull. All continental calves are eligible in your traditional breeds, but the bull has to be a minimum of 3 stars on the DBI, the Dairy Beef Index, and or across the breed, and a minimum of 3-star rating on the beef sub-index of the DBI within or across the breed as well. So it's encouraging farmers to breed a better continental calf, and to go out and buy a better continental bull. Your bull or if you're using AI, either is eligible. Your bull would have to be genotyped, that's the only.
And this, again, payment-wise, €20 for 50, so this is the 1,000 as well. How is this one received? I know the other one was oversubscribed. How does this one, how is it received by dairy farmers, Michael? Yeah,
this one has been undersubscribed for some reason. Hard to figure, especially with dairy farmers using a lot of sex semen now. And, before maybe they would have been using a Frisian bull with all their herd. Now they're not. They're just using what they need for replacements, and the rest then is generally a whitehead or an Angus bull, maybe a Belgian blue. So it's hard to figure why it is undersubscribed, but it is. Maybe not a lot of farmers are applying to it. Mm-hmm. I know some of the bulls aren't actually qualifying under the star ratings. That's probably one of the biggest problems.
Yeah, you would imagine just with the value of calves now at the moment, it would be something that would be taken on by farmers. But with those schemes, Michael, look, they are what they are, and you have up until the 15th, the single payment or the basic payment day to subscribe for them. When we have you, another interesting piece of information you brought to us was a press release for last week, and it was about the amount of beef imported into Ireland. And this is one, now when you read down through these figures, this would make you scratch your head. We're known for a country that exports 90% of our beef, but yet we're bringing in a lot. Roughly, what are we bringing in per year? 2025, for example, Michael, what do we bring into the country?
40,000, nearly 41,000, 40,700 tonnes.
And let's break that down into animals on the ground, if we're talking about in farming sense.
Yeah, if you break it down with the average kill out, I think it was 346 kilos last year, it breaks down to 118,000 animals. Like, as you said, 90% of our animals are exported, so 10% are kept in the country for ourselves. kill last year was 1.5 million. That's 150,000 animals. Why do we need another 118,000 basically coming in?
Yeah, and we're looking at that then. We've always heard the kill in around that 30,000, per week, up or over. That was always a traditional figure. And those figures, 118,000, if we're breaking them down to roughly 10,000 per month, a little bit under it, we're talking almost 2,500 cattle per week. So that's really going to be the spot there that gets the number just where it's going to be one side or the other side of the 30,000. But I suppose people will say, okay, right, a lot of cattle brought into the country last year. Where did they come from? That's the big question.
Yeah, predominantly Britain, or Great Britain, 20,000 roughly from there, and around 17,000 from Northern Ireland. They would have been the big two. I'd say that's their 37,000 tonnes between the two of those. Smaller sums then from the likes of Spain and Italy, and then you have again some from Brazil and Argentina and these countries as well, which maybe 127 or 150 tonnes from Brazil, wouldn't be massive amounts, but England and Northern Ireland's two big ones. But again, the question we're asking is, these are, Britain is a country that doesn't traditionally export beef; it imports. So is this actually 20,000 tonnes coming from Britain, British beef, or is it beef that's been brought into Britain and then moved on to Ireland?
And these questions, Michael, the ICMSA are asking, obviously putting them to the Department of Agriculture. Are you getting any answers?
No, not a lot of clarity in fairness, MJ. We're getting the same old story. It's commercially sensitive information. So I guess we're going to ask the likes of the meat processors, are they involved? Whether they clarify it for us or not, which time will tell. We've also asked for figures for this year, but at the moment all we've got is an estimate for January, which is hard to figure why they haven't better figures than that. And that figure for January, I think, was 3,700 cattle, which would be in line with last year. But it's hard to know because the kill this year is back. We're back, I think, nearly 80,000 cattle already this year.
Yeah, you would have to wonder. I suppose people would say then, well, look, beef price was at that exceptionally high price last year, so these extra cattle coming in, obviously, they didn't bring down the price. However, this year then, I suppose you could argue, with demand on the lower side and with that higher price, that any cattle at all coming in is going to disrupt the market, and it's not going to be in favour of the farmer.
No, exactly. And again, how much has come in this year? Is this beef being used to fill some of the contracts that Irish beef has been used to fill last year? Again, questions, and we're still waiting on answers. Yeah. Price in Britain is still 50, 60 cents higher than here. Europe is higher than here. We know demand isn't what it was, but it still has, it's still there.
Mm-hmm. A lot of very interesting questions, Michael, and I think important to beat the drum on them. I'm just out of time on it, but look, it won't be the last time we're speaking to you here on the programme. Thanks for joining me here on Country Life, and we will speak to you again, Michael. Many thanks.
Thank you for having me, MJ.
Michael O'Connell there, ICMSA Livestock Committee Chair. And wouldn't those figures just make you scratch your head as to where all that beef is going, or why so much is coming into the country when we produce far more than we can ever use? You would have to wonder. Now, coming up after the break, we're going to be talking to Carol Cassan from IFAC, and it is news on Ireland's anaerobic digestion, the AD plants, and a piece of legislation. Well, it's not legislation, it's an opinion actually from the European Commission, which is going to affect it. So we're going to hear about that in just a moment.
Country Life on Midlands 103.
Brought to you by W.R. Shaw, where New Holland isn't just a brand, it's our passion. For over 40 years, we've been Ireland's trusted name for New Holland tractors, parts and farm machinery. Whether you need new, used or ex-hire tractors, we've got you covered. wrshaw.ie.
And you're welcome back to Country Life here in Midlands 103. Now we are moving on to anaerobic digestion, and we have Carol Cassan from IFAC on the line, joining us all the way from County Kerry. Carol, many thanks for taking my call this evening.
Thanks very much. I hope all is good with you, MJ.
We're good, Carol. Yeah, we have been speaking to you in a while, but we are talking now about biomethane and something which occurred last week. Look, we've delved into biomethane anaerobic digestion here many times on the programme, and Stephen Robb from the Farmers Journal, very well informed on it all. He's told us many times about all these targets that the government had for 2030 and we missed them and we're a long way off of them. But yet they are going. We had a piece here, a biomethane plant up in Meath back a few months ago that is under construction at the moment, and they are occurring, just probably not at the pace people originally thought. But something occurred this week in Europe which is going to be a bit of an issue for it. Can you break it down for us, please, Carol?
Yeah, I can indeed. As you say, there is some great plans there for 5.7 terawatt hours of gas of biomethane by 2030, which roughly translates out to maybe about 200 plants. And as you say, it's very slow kicking off. There's maybe 2 or 3 plants being built at the moment. But as part of the government plan, they had what's known as the RHO, the Renewable Heat Obligation. So that's draft legislation that they drafted at the end of last year, and they sent it on to the EU to be reviewed. And as part of that, they had what was known as a multiplier involved in the legislation. So the multiplier was, I'll go back a little bit first and explain what the RHO is. It's an obligation for suppliers of fossil fuel used for heating to ensure that a proportion of the energy that's supplied there actually comes from a renewable source. So the way it was is it was built in that, say, 1.5% for the next, say, 6 to 8 months in 2026 would have to come from a renewable source. And what they put into the proposed legislation was that if you put renewable, say, biomethane produced in Ireland, you get 1.5 times the credit of putting in, say, biomethane you might import from another country. So it was given an advantage, let's say, to Irish biomethane to kind of give a kick to the industry here in Ireland. But unfortunately, the EU have come back and said it's actually against internal market rules, and therefore they won't allow Ireland put the 1.5 multiplier in place as part of the RHO. So that's a setback, let's say, for the plans the government had to try and encourage the industry.
Yeah, it's not going to be as appealing to set one up now, basically, in layman's terms.
Correct, yeah, because it's a huge spend, and sure the guys you've been talking before, like you're talking in multi-millions, 20, 30 million to build one of these plants at any kind of a scale. And then when you produce the gas out the other side of it, it's actually much more expensive than what you can buy natural gas for. So there needs to be some kind of an incentive there, let's say, for purchasers of this gas. So as part of this RHO, if it goes ahead, there will be the incentive there that the fuel suppliers will have to include a percentage of renewable gas. But the issue now is that the Irish biomethane is probably going to be at a disadvantage compared to other biomethanes that could be imported in. So the government, like the EU, have left the door open still, though, because they have said there is other alternatives out there. If you look at Denmark, Italy, even Czechia in the last number of days, they've got different supports that the EU have accepted for the industry. So if we even look at just Czechia, as I say, I think it was on the 14th of April, Johnny, last week, the EU accepted their proposal, which is worth 3.7 billion to the biomethane industry there, and it's for a contract of difference. So anybody who builds a biomethane plant in Czechia for the next number of years, they can sign up for a contract of difference. And what that means is that there'll be a set price. Let's say it'll be 15 cent per unit. And if the price on the market is lower than that, the government would pay a top up for the next 15 years. Or if the price is higher, the actual company producing the biomethane pays back the money, let's say, to the government to lower the price of gas overall for everybody in the market. So something like that is available, and it's probably something now the government will have to consider if they want to really kickstart the industry here in Ireland, because it looks like the multiplier is gone from the look of the ruling from the EU.
And if, for example, that multiplier stayed in place, Carol, would you have seen it then? Would it have been something that maybe a couple of farmers might have got together and built one of these, a small scale one themselves, as in like you see small solar farms going on, you see huge solar farms. Is that the idea that the smaller individual could get into this space, or is it just for massive big business?
It's at the moment it's aimed more towards the actual strategy that the government came up with there was 2 years ago now. It did mention, say, the farm-based and farm scale and that, but really the kind of incentives at the moment are for the larger. Now, we are dealing here in IFAC with a number of individuals who are farmers who are looking at developing something, but it is like to try and get finance. You are talking north of 15 million. Part of getting the finance was looking at this RHO, the kind of smaller scale, what you'd see in maybe the north of Ireland. The idea for that is that they'd come afterwards maybe, and they might be a number of them together. Maybe the gas is collected and taken into the grid, let's say, because there's talks of an entrance point to the grid being built at the moment in Mitchellstown. There'll be another one in Kildare, and the gas can go in there. But let's say the plants connected directly to the gas grid would be the larger plants, because even the cost of connection alone could be multi-million euros to get connected onto the grid. So you're looking at bigger plants at the moment, which is a pity. Like we would be saying that it should be more encouraged, as you say, that more the farm scale, give everybody a chance to be involved in this industry. But the way it is structured at the moment, it's definitely favouring the bigger plants is where it's looking at.
Well, I'll say many thanks for giving us the update there, Carl. Very succinct roundup on what's a quite technical area. You broke it down for us great there. And look, we will speak to you again on the programme. Many thanks.
Thanks very much, MJ. Take care.
Carl Cassan there from IFAC. So a bump in the road in relation to anaerobic digestion in Ireland, but I'm sure they'll go back to the drawing board and see where it goes from there. Now, I'm going to a break, and after we are going to be speaking about Cultivate. It is National Cultivate Week, the loan from the credit union aimed at the agri-industry, so stay tuned for that.
Country Life on Midlands 103.
With W.R. Shaw. Looking for the best in farm machinery? We've been supplying top quality New Holland tractors and parts and providing service since 1982. Our expert team is here to keep your farm running smoothly, with branches in Tullamore and Carlow. Visit wrshaw.ie today.
And you're very welcome back to Country Life here in Midland 103. Now, as I said, it is National Cultivate Week. Cultivate is the loan offering from credit unions for the agri sector. Our reporter Courtney Callahan yesterday interviewed Paul Shaw from Tullamore Credit Union. He's the CEO, and Katrina Lawler. Let's hear what they had to say.
We're celebrating National Cultivate Week, and it's taking place all this week, and it's a very important week for anyone who is investing in farmers. I suppose if you've got stock to buy, sheds to fix, machinery to replace, and we're going to answer all the big questions today. So I'm joined by Paul Shaw, CEO of Tullamore Credit Union. Paul, how are you? Thanks so much for coming in this evening.
Hi.
Can you tell me about Cultivate Week, and I suppose just explain it a bit better and how the credit union is involved?
So Cultivate is a large collaboration of the majority of credit unions in the country are now involved in it. So basically, it's a single branded loan finance product available for farming members of credit unions.
Obviously, it's kind of celebrating the farmers as well, and it's a partnership really between the farming community and the credit unions showing support. So who can avail of it, or how can they get involved in it?
Well, the great thing about credit unions is anybody can become a member of a credit union. All you have to do is come into us. There's obviously ID and account opening like normal. Just have €5 in an account and then you're a member. And there's no waiting list for farmers to access Cultivate. Once they're a member, the product is available to them.
And what can the loan be used for? Because, of course, there's so much going on in a farm.
Yeah, so the loan is used for many purposes. So it can be used for purchasing new or second-hand machinery, for buying livestock, for upgrading farm buildings and facilities. And we also find that we are the secondary financer under the Targeted Agriculture Modernisation Scheme, the TAMS scheme. So a lot of the grants in that are capped at 60%, and many farmers turn to their credit unions to fund some of the remaining 40% finance for that.
And so then can we go into detail, I suppose, about the loan amounts and the terms then is what people are going to want to know as well.
Yeah. So the maximum loan amount is 75,000. So you can write down to anything as low as 5,000. Up to 75,000. The maximum term for it is 7 years, and the rate of interest is 6.5%. It's an APR of 6.75, and typically these loans are unsecured, although there are some credit unions out there who are offering a Cultivate secured product which can be used for purchasing land and for other long-term purchases.
And so, Paul, is there any trends among the farmers that are coming into the credit union, or is there anything that you're noticing in particular that they're looking to get really from the credit union?
Well, we really are noticing the cyclical nature of farming because a lot of the farmers we deal with tend to be beef farmers. I think 75% of Cultivate members tend to be beef farmers, just the way it is. And we know that 2025 was a really good year for beef farmers. Beef prices were at the highest level they had seen for quite a while. But 2026 so far, we're well aware that it's been on the other side of the cycle. Beef prices have been, they've been going down. They're down maybe between 5 and 10% this year. They're down below €7 a kilo at certain factories. And we realise then that input costs are going up. So there is a bit of a gap when you're in this phase of a cycle. That's when financing needs really come to the fore. So just to say to farmers out there that if they are experiencing cash flow difficulties at that side of the beef price cycle, come and talk to your credit union. We'd probably be able to help.
And on that as well, are there any different, I suppose, risk profiles or lending considerations between the beef and dairy farmers?
Well, there are different. I mean, the dairy farming cash flow tends to be more predictable. But the beauty of the Cultivate product is that the repayment frequency can be tailored to the individual cash flow of the farmer. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. The Cultivate product is sensitive to the different cash flow needs with different sectors in the agriculture industry.
So, Paul, we know that National Cultivate Week, the credit unions are being covered nationwide. There's 192 locations involved. Can you give me a clue of some of them that are even in the Midlands?
Yeah, well, off the top of my head, obviously, Tullamore Credit Union is a Cultivate Credit Union. Our friends in North Midlands also, People First down in County Laois, Portarlington, West Midlands and Creeline are all Cultivate Credit Unions. And we all collaborate very well together. We're not competing for farmers. It's done by which common bond you're in. So there's no competition. We're all friends. We're all trying to encourage each other and help each other grow this business.
Brilliant. So there's a great range of them in the Midlands. And if people want to find a full list of locations, where can they head to?
The website for Cultivate it's a slightly tricky one. So it's www.cultivate-cu.ie. Or they can just Google Credit Union Cultivate and they'll find it from there. And
I know your teams to be very busy in the spring-summer season. They're out and about at all the events. Can you give us a clue of where people might be able to find you?
Well, the two big ones, again, a little bit off the top of my head, we'll definitely be at the Tullamore Show and at the National Ploughing Championships in Screggan in September. And I would put a shout out to anyone organising any agricultural shows or farming events during the summer to contact Tullamore Credit Union. Our member engagement team would love to attend, and the Cultivate team would love to attend as well to meet the farmers there.
We know, of course, that farmers are the backbone of the community and the credit union does work alongside them every day. And of course, as we know, it's a busy lifestyle, especially this springtime. You're going to have your calves and your baby lambs coming out. So I'm joined also here by Katrina Lawler, who is the Member Engagement Controller of Tullamore Credit Union. Katrina, thanks so much for coming in this evening.
Courtney, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. So Katrina, can you talk to me about the out-of-hours service? Because this sounds brilliant.
Yeah, so at Tullamore Credit Union, we understand that farmers are really, really busy, and it is a really, really busy time for them. So farmers will be getting the soil ready for the first cut of silage, as you said, lambing season, the dairy farmers getting the cows back into calves. So it is a busy time for them. So we understand that. So we're offering a service where if they don't have time to come into the credit union during our opening hours, our loans team can go out and actually meet them. So at any time, let that be early in the morning, we can pop out, or later on in the evening. All they have to do is contact us in the credit union and we can arrange that for them.
That's going to be a big help for farmers because it's a very busy lifestyle. So how can they get in contact? Have you got a specific email or just ring up the credit union?
Yeah, they can contact us in the credit union directly, or they can email loans@tullamorecu.ie. They'll get back to them straight away.
And we know that it's National Cultivate Week. Of course, we're celebrating that. There is some national and local events. Is there anything going on in Tullamore Credit Union, or is there anything to incite people to come in, I suppose, and get involved in this?
Yeah, so Cultivate themselves are actually running a farm and photography competition, and it kicked off in January and they're running it right up until September. So it's basically to capture the landscaping across our beautiful country. So they are the first top 12 images will go on their 2027 calendar, and the first prize will win €1,000 Ireland's Blue Book voucher. So yeah, it's a great competition to get in. We have it on our Facebook page. And you can also go on cultivate.ie.
Thank you so much for joining me in studio. It was great to get an insight into this week, and the very best of luck with it.
Thanks.
Thanks very much, Courtney.
Thanks to Courtney Callahan there. She was speaking to Paul Shaw, CEO of Tullamore Credit Union, and Katrina Lawler from Tullamore Credit Union, all about Cultivate. It's Cultivate Week this week. And Courtney said in the middle of that, the farmers are the backbone of the community. Good woman, Courtney. Those loans, guys, are 6.5% up to AER 6.75%, 7-year term max, 75k. And look, as was said in the interview there, it's a tough year, so you may need additional financing, but just financing, it needs to be paid back as well. So each individual circumstance will dictate what you need. Just in front of me, I have here that the average Cultivate loan application was for 40,000 in 2025 over a period of 6.6 years. So they're the sort of figures you are looking at. And if interested, or if you need to, and again, each situation is different, to contact your local credit union, see if they have a Cultivate offering. Now, that is it for this evening's programme. I would like to thank all of my guests who joined me here over the course of the last hour. Back at the start of the programme, I was speaking to Peter Thomas Keaveney from the Irish Farmers Journal about their big event taking place in Kilkenny this day week. It's Grass 2026, so if you're interested in machinery, it's the place to be. Michael O'Connell from the ICMSA was speaking to us about the two different dairy calf schemes, the weighing scheme and the breeding scheme, and also scratching his head wondering why so much beef is coming into Ireland. That's what the ICMSA are asking, and they're not getting many answers at the moment. Carl Cassan from IFAC spoke to us about anaerobic digestion and a bump in the road in relation to it in Ireland, and we just heard about the Cultivate loan package there. That is it for this evening's programme. I will be back with you next Wednesday evening, which hopefully I'll be saying to you about the lovely week of warm sunshine we've had over the last 7 days. We're repeated here Sunday morning, 7 a.m. through to 8 a.m. You can listen then. You can also listen at your leisure wherever you get your podcast. If you type in MJ space Clery, Clery, we will pop up. We're on YouTube as well, so you can listen on a variety of formats. We will speak to you in 7 days' time. So good evening, and we'll speak to you then.